pieces together for our third Instagram post, probably going to be our last, just looking at the school calendar. Now, this document that I'm going to be walking you through today isn't your Instagram post, but it's merely a place for you to write your captions while looking at directions and to start putting your images together. So when it comes to creating your post, it's pretty seamless and you're not missing any pieces. The big idea of this is that I want you to think about, with our third Instagram post, the key word of data. We really want to make sure that there's data in our captions to justify our answers. Now, this is the first part of the Instagram document. There'll be a second assignment related to this for Thursday or Wednesday's class going into next week, but I'm just going to walk you through the first parts. So our first section is going to be setting the climate. You're going to want a couple images. One is going to be a Köppen climate map of your location, and 1 to 2 images of geographic or physical features that influence your location's climate. And this is really just a summary of our first and second Instagram posts and the climate quotes that you did. So the caption is going to be this. In 2 to 3 sentences, describe the main predominant climate. Make sure you include abbreviations of your location, while also detailing the main seasonalities, including the current season of your location. You also want to explain how geographic features influence your location's climate. For an additional challenge, you can think about how and why these factors create a climate different to surrounding climates. So thinking about that climate quilt and different climates in a region. So I'll go over my information in a second, but where can you get this information? Slide 18 has a great link to Britannica, which has all of the different Köppen climates with different abbreviations and different definitions. So this will be important. And again, also revisit your first and second Instagram posts. Ideally, also, you're going to want to go to, let me get back to my link. You're going to want to go to your Wikipedia page for your location and look at the climate, because that's going to tell you a little bit about how things are changing right now in April, May, June in terms of temperature, precipitation, and sunshine, giving you an idea of what's happening with the seasons. So because Wanaka is in the southern hemisphere, it's going to be getting less and less sunlight as we approach June and July. We see that here. It means that there's going to be a big decrease in the temperature, but notice, because this is a sea climate, continental climate that's quite temperate, no big change in rainfall. So when I go to write my caption, I'm going to write this information based on the things that I just found. The CFB climate is punctuated by relatively even warm months and precipitation. Doesn't get too cold, doesn't get too hot. Fall climate results in shorter sunshine hours and colder days. Notice I cited some data. The Southern Alps create a physical barrier of wet oceanic air to the continental Wanaka. Wanaka still receives consistent rainfall, average of 670 millimeters, but much less than Haast, a town on the western coast. So if I think about showing that for you guys, and this is where Google Maps can be a really helpful tool. Thinking about how do these different physical features influence the quilt of climates. I look up at Wanaka, New Zealand. I'm going to go into satellite mode. Here's Wanaka. Here is Haast is very, very tiny. You can barely see it. But here's Haast. Haast gets 5 times as much rainfall because, again, the Southern Alps are creating a physical barrier for all of this western coastal air coming off onto the coast. Lots of snow, and then we get into the continental temperate weather. So that's the first part of our climate Instagram posts. We're then going to be doing section 2, which is predicting and analyzing the weather. The great news is that you've already done a lot of this work. In 2 to 3 sentences, you want to predict and explain at least one day's weather forecast, citing specific data such as air pressure, temperature, wind, humidity, to justify the weather of the day. And you also want to include at least one image of your location showing the probable weather of that day. I would suggest doing Google, your location, raining, sunny, blah, blah, blah. And using your weather data, predict types of clouds that you would expect to see in the sky given current and future weather data. The idea that clouds are current weather, but also a lot of times they predict the future weather. This is an additional challenge that we'll talk more about on Thursday. So here I have a screenshot of Tuesday into Wednesday's forecast for Queenstown, which is right next to Wanaka. Again, I have this broader graph here. And notice you can hover over specific times and get information related to air pressure, humidity, wind speed, temperature. That might be really useful for getting data. So, Tuesday's forecast into Wednesday has a change in air pressure, 29.6, which is low, to 29.9 or above, which is high, as the high pressure system moves in, creating a decreased chance of precipitation, ka-ching, with increased winds while the front moves in. Notice that big spike in wind as the air pressure changes. The open skies and consistent air pressure will result in few clouds, like altostratus, so sort of moderately high clouds. Altostratus generally means pretty dry weather, not super humid, not a lot of rain to be had, and a large temperature increase during the day. So I went to Google Images and Googled Wanaka partially sunny. These look a bit more cumulus, a bit more lumpy, but this might be a really good image. I actually biked on this road when I did my bike tour in New Zealand, and there was not a lot of roadway for cyclists. So you want to find an image that best represents what you think the weather of the day will look like and what the clouds will look like. You could also try doing things such as Wanaka LiveCam. Maybe there is a location that shows the weather outside. So let's take a look. Maybe this is going to be another way that you could get some data. Oh, this is today's weather. Looks pretty chill. Oh, maybe that's just a recording. They want you to go there. But you could then see, ooh, no current images available. Well, that stinks. So more on this we can talk about later. But that hopefully addresses all of the main ideas that you want to have for your first part of this third Instagram document.